guys, in the last video we have checked Resident Evil 1.5 and we have seen what could have been. But what was there instead of it was Resident Evil 2. And this game was one of the best games that the world has ever seen. So, in today's video we will start the official Resident Evil 2 retrospective. With that said, I'm Daniel from Retro Haven and welcome to our channel. The end and the beginning. Drama for Resident Evil 2 was too much to handle for any team. Mikami wanted to end the Resident Evil series with Resident Evil 2 and believed that if you are going to build something everlasting, then you have to do it in a way it won't repeat time and time again. But Yoshiki Okamata, who was working as a supervisor of the project, was in exact opposite side of this approach and believed that the game should be a foundation for a long-lasting series. He defined the game series he had in his mind as a huge universe such as James Bond, with a lot to explore in each game in future. The argument was real, but as you can see in the third decade of 21st century, the winner was Okamoto. The team finally gave up to Okamoto's vision and decided to set up an epic story that creates a more open-ended vision for future. The main goal of the game was selling 2 million copies in the end, and since they wanted to achieve this huge number while trying to make a story worthy of a long time series to come, they have hired Noboru Sugimaro. He was a professional and respected screenwriter and started work as a consultant to the writers. His first task was to identify the problems in Resident Evil 1.5 story and offering a solution to fix them. Soon, his vision started to make things so amazingly interesting that they hired him full-time and left the story completely in his care. The story got too big for a single disc, and the team decided to build a game on 2 different discs, one for each main character, and a new journey started for the development team. New approach. The team went back to the drawing board for some characters, but kept the rest almost the same, and just reassigned them to new roles. For example, the big guy John was reused as the weapon dealer for police forces in Raccoon City. They reduced his scope in this game as well. For the Berkin family, Sherry remained almost the same and his father did not change that much, but the appearance of Annette changed to make her more like a Hollywood star. The inspiration for her design was the superstar of that era, Jodie Foster. Elsa Walker was scrapped completely, and instead of her, they brought Chris's sister. Her name was Claire, and she was added to make things more connected to the previous games and make room for upcoming versions. The only thing that left from Elsa ashes for the Claire to pick up was interest in bike. For the cutscenes, there were no sign of cheesy movies, and they have opted for computer graphics. They wanted to make things cinematic, so they used action figures and stop motion animation. So as a result, there are 2 types of graphical outputs: in-game quality cutscenes and high quality full CG versions. In order to avoid the low quality of the voice actors in the previous entry, the team have tried multiple options. They had 10 candidates for each character, and the funny thing was that they were all from Canada. Finally, they put together a talented voice cast that is truly matched the visuals of the game for each character. The only thing that they could not do as planned was Ada model. They could not finish her high quality version, and that's why in the whole game you will not see her in any of the high quality CG cutscenes, and she appears only inside the in-game graphic cutscenes. Another great change that the story and the environment faced was the host of the event, police station itself. Instead of a modern blue and industrial station we saw in RE 1.5, we see something change, something more gothic. The new police station was a museum that was later transformed into the police HQ. So the cryptic puzzles and the items were not out of the place, and they could bring back an amazing aspect of Resident Evil 1 without moving the boundaries out of the reason. Finally, the music for this game was left to Masami Ueda, Shusaku Uchiyama, and Seun Nishigaki. These guys were some of the most well-known names in the Japan's music. Of course, they did not all the tracks, and one of the tracks was composed by Naoshi Mizuta, but he did not receive the composer bidding for this game. and got only a special thanks section credit. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. The gameplay style almost stayed the same as RE1. The camera scheme, the controls, and the item management all remained the same. Since the graphic took a huge jump, all the new camera angles and backgrounds had a whole new feeling to them. The feeling of getting immersed in the world was translated way better than Resident Evil 1, and the new engine showed how well the static camera can work for such game. In the end, the animation was more fluid. Injuries affected your movement. Gun recoil was a lot more realistic. More guns and enemies were introduced, so everything felt fresher. But in the end, they did not fix what was not broken, and Resident Evil 2 remained one of the best examples of static camera and tank control in the history of video games. A warm reception. A huge amount of money were invested in this game, and some reports claim that the advertisement for Resident Evil 2 alone cost Capcom around $5 million. This amount seems to be huge, but the plan was to make the series into a new height, and this little maneuver worked well in the end. Finally, Resident Evil was released after some delays, and the PlayStation hosted one of the best games ever on the 21st day of January 1998. Soon, ports and extra versions got released for the game, and the final result was that the PlayStation version alone was just 250,000 shy of 6 million copies sold. The gamers' reception was amazing, and the critics loved it as well. For example, Metacritic gave this game 89 out of 100, which is still amazing today. In the end, this game ranked as the 14th most successful PlayStation 1 game in terms of sale. The final sales report showed that Resident Evil sold more than 6.1 million copies. The game is still ranked 6th in the Resident Evil series sale chart, and was the most successful Resident Evil game until Resident Evil 4 got the crown from it. So guys, we have covered the main aspects of the game, and we will go to more depth in the next videos. This retrospective series will continue once again, and we will have 10 parts for Resident Evil 2 just as we had for Resident Evil 1. If you have not seen our retrospective of Resident Evil 1, we suggest you to go and take a look at them. New heroes. Before we start, I gotta state something. Resident Evil 2 had two main campaigns, each belonged to one hero, and this made the scenarios A and B for each one of them. When you finish the game with either of the characters, a save for the scenario B of the other character will be awarded to you. So in total, two timelines were there. These two are Leon A, Claire B, and Claire A, Leon B. On the other hand, in the Resident Evil 2 release, Leon Disc was labeled as Disc 1 and Claire was Disc 2. So it was natural for people to start the game with Leon A and see Claire B. But the actual canon version of the story was Claire A, Leon B, and the story we will tell you will be based on this progression. 2 months have passed since the hellish operation in the Arklay mansion, and the few survivors of the incident claimed that one of the biggest companies in the history was responsible for the incident, and the stories about the zombies, BOWs, and cryptic mansion in the middle of a jungle was so out of this world that the police chief dismissed their claim and disbanded the whole star team as a result. During this time, a rookie cop was hired to join RPD. His name was Leon Scott Kennedy. But the night before the departure from his hometown, he partied a bit too hard with his friends and had a huge hangover as a result, so he left to his destination 1 day late on September 29th. On the other hand, Chris Redfield, the hero of the first game, was furious with the authorities and the direction they have chosen. So he decided to make the umbrella pay and take the action by himself. He left without a trace, and this led to her sister, Claire Redfield, to get worried. His brother did not answer to her calls and letters, so she decided to go to the Raccoon City and find Chris by herself. In the city limits, a truck driver decided to refill his tanker before hitting the road again, but a zombie surprised him and bit his arm. The driver, who had no clue what just have happened to him, just ran and sit in his truck to get away. Doomed arrival. Claire and Leon reached the town together almost at the same time. Claire parked her bike in front of a diner to grab a bite before going into town. It was night and she had a long journey, so she entered the dining room. But things were so quiet there. Only a mushy sound came from behind the bar, so she went to see what's going on there. What she saw there was nothing less than a nightmare. A man was eating another person, and when the dead man noticed Claire's presence, a new meal was available to him. Claire was panicked and moved backward until her back hit the window, but something was bumping on the other side of the window. The other zombies sniffed Claire's presence there. Zombies were in the front of entry, and getting back from there was not an option. So Claire looked around and only saw the back door. There were no time to hesitate, so she ran for the back door. On the other hand, Leon just reached the town, but saw a dead body in the middle of the deserted road. He was a cop, and the first thing that came to his mind was checking the status. He left his jeep and went to investigate the body, but after a short while, he felt a movement behind him. When Leon turned back, he saw a bunch of pranksters trying to spook him. He was not in the mood to play games, so he warned them, but it seems that they don't care about his words. So Leon drew his gun and aimed at them, while still giving routine police warnings, but something grabbed his leg from behind. The dead body he was investigating a second ago was alive and struggled to take a bite of Leon's leg. He knew something was wrong, so he fired a bullet into the zombie's head and shot another one while trying to get back. A door behind him opened. Leon turned around and saw a girl standing there. The girl was Claire, who shouted, "Don't shoot!" Leon ordered her to get down and shoot the zombie behind her, and then raised her hand toward Claire and told her that they have to go to the police station if they want to stay safe. Leon's jeep was out of reach, and they saw a police car standing close by, so they rushed into it. In the way, Leon figured out that there is no radio coverage, and then the pair introduced themselves to one another. Leon instructed Claire to take the cop gun from the glove box, and just as she did, a zombie jumped from the back seat and tried to get Leon. Leon lost control of the car, and the car crashed head into a wall. The zombie got catapulted out of the car, but there was no time for them to rest, because the truck driver who was beaten earlier was almost dead and speeding toward them. Leon and Claire had no time to think. They just jumped out of the car, and a huge explosion made the night bright as day. This light brought a lot of zombies' attention toward them, and all Leon could do was ask Claire to go to the police station so they can meet up there.
Claire!
Leon!
I'm okay. Head to the station. I'll meet you there.
Okay.
RPD, a lost haven. Claire found out that she is in a dead end and ran toward the end of the alley to avoid the zombies. The only option she had was a gun shop with a huge Kendo neon light in front of the window. She ran inside but faced a gun pointed at her. The gun shop owner, Robert Kendo, put his gun down as soon as he noticed that Claire is not a zombie. Claire asked him about the madness in town and what might have caused it, but Kendo did not know much either. She saw some bullets in the counter and tried to grab them, but all of a sudden the window behind them shattered into pieces. Before Kendo is able to move his gun and shoot more than one bullet, zombies swarmed him. Claire had no choice but to run. Getting back outside was not an option, so she opted to go for the back door. It took a while, but she finally reached the police station. When she entered that amazing building, she faced a lot of locked doors. On the other hand, Leon reached the other side of the station, but saw a helicopter flying there. He just rushed the stairs to get to the chopper in time for the rescue. But another cop was there before Leon, and he tried to shoot the zombies that attacked him from behind. But he lost control and shot the pilot instead. The chopper went down and crashed hard into the ground. The fire was everywhere, and Leon knew that he has to run away. Inside the main hall, Claire finally found an open door, but as soon as she got in, she heard a wounded guy's voice. Officer Marvin Branagh was there, bleeding on the ground. Claire went to her, and after Marvin found out that she is the Chris's sister, he gave her a keycard to open the rest of the doors in the main hall. Claire tried to help the Marvin, but Marvin, who knew that he will soon turn into a zombie, aimed his gun at her and asked her to save herself. Claire said that she will come back for him, and just when she stepped out of the door, Marvin locked the door from behind. Claire used the keycard and opened the rest of the doors. The first place that she wanted to try was the SARS office, so on the way she saw a decapitated police officer, and a couple of steps in front of her something terrifying was lurking on the ceiling. A huge monster with exposed brain and no eyes dropped in front of Claire. She froze out because of fear, but noticed that the creature did not notice her presence. It was easy for a smart girl such as Claire to figure out what's going on. The creature was blind and just had to listen to the sound, and since she was standing still, nothing could be heard from her. She tiptoed toward the door, but stepped on a piece of glass while focused on the monster. The sound of the cracked glass cut short by the loud scream of the monster. Claire had to run and get to the door and close it before the monster can reach her. She finally found her way to the SARS office and went to Chris's desk. It was not hard for her to find the Chris's desk because it was the only messy one in the whole office. And she knew her brother so well to know that this is Chris's desk. So she searched it and found only a diary. When she started to read it, she found out that the Chris is in Europe trying to expose Umbrella. There was nothing left for her in the town, so she had to get out. The sound of the opening door broke her thoughts, but before reaching for her weapon, she saw a familiar face. Leon was there, alive and well. They talked about the situation and decided to search for any survivor and get the hell out of that place ASAP. A dead hero, a mad chief, and a lost child. Leon went to extinguish the fire caused by the chopper, and Claire went to search for survivors. On the way, Claire reached out to the other side of the office that the Marvin was in, but it was too late. Marvin was turned into a zombie, and she had to put him down. Inside the Marvin's office, she found out that there is a C4 detonator is laying on the desk, so she took it with her. On the other hand, Leon put out the fire using the main water tank, but noticed another chopper, this time flying higher. The helicopter dropped a capsule, and Leon rushed to see what was that. Instead of help, Leon faced a 2.5 meter tall monster in a trench coat, a BOW sent by Umbrella to cover their tracks. Leon swiftly dodged his punch and fired multiple shotgun shells toward the monster. He stumbled and went down, but instead of going all the way down, looked at the Leon in the eye and started to stand up. Leon was shocked by the creature's power and was wise enough to know when it is time to run and escape before the monster can fully stand up. On the other side, Claire used the C4 to open the broken door and saw a magnificent office in front of her. On the desk in the center of the room, there was a dead body. A beautiful blonde girl with a white dress that was half red by her own blood. All of a sudden, the chair behind the desk turned, and the huge man with the trimmed mustache pointed the gun at the Claire, but lowered his hand fast and stated that he is sorry and he thought she was another zombie. The man was the chief of the police, Brian Irons, and the dead girl was the mayor's daughter that he was supposed to protect, but he failed and she died by a zombie's attack. Chief asked Claire's name, but before she can reply, he asked her not to tell her name because she will end up dying just like all the others. He looked weary and asked Claire to leave him alone for now. Claire continued to search in the chief's office and find a little girl there. The girl tried to run away, but Claire stopped and calmed her down. The girl's name was Sherry Berkin. Her parents were scientists at Umbrella chemical plants in the town's limit, and her mother called her to go to the police station to stay safe. Claire asked her to stay with her, but the girl said that there was a huge monster out there looking for her, and when a huge roar distracted Claire, Sherry ran away. Claire went back after her but found out that the chief and the dead body are both gone. Behind the chief's desk there was a hidden door, and Claire had to find multiple items to open it. So Claire went and fetched them and found Sherry when she got back to the office. They found an elevator inside and took it to go down. By the look of the things, Claire knew that something was wrong, so she asked Sherry to stay behind so she can go and investigate ahead. She found a wooden door and entered it but faced Brian Irons there. He pointed the gun at her and blamed Umbrella for destroying this amazing town. He told her about the G-Virus and the Umbrella's involvement with the outbreak inside the city, and mentioned that the monster roaring at the station was none other than Sherry's father. Irons was in the brink of madness and told Claire that he will not let anyone escape his town. Before Chief can do anything, a huge hand grabbed him from the trapdoor behind the corner and took him down, and a second later, half of his body thrown back inside. Claire could not risk going back because it would have led the monster directly to Sherry, and made her gun ready and jumped inside the trapdoor. She faced a humanoid monster with a huge eye on his arm. She stayed back and fired everything she had, but the bullet almost had no effect on the monster. The luck was on Claire's side because one of her bullets hit the monster's eye, and the monster was blinded for a second, so he tried to grab into something, but instead of grabbing to something solid, Bud stumbled from the ledge and dropped into the bottomless pit in front of him. Claire went back and picked up the Sherry and called Leon on the radio and told him that they found a way to the sewers. On the other hand, Leon was escaping from the monster he faced and tried to find a way, so he went to the parking and faced a woman there. Her name was Ada Wong, and she was there looking for her boyfriend John, who was an Umbrella researcher. They teamed up to investigate the area and find a man inside the jail cell. His name was Ben Bertolucci. He was a reporter and told Leon and Ada that the chief of police is the main villain here, and Ben locked himself in the cell to be safe from the huge monster he saw in the station. He gave them a hint how to go to the sewers, and Leon and Ada went based on his hint to escape. As soon as they found the manhole leading there, they heard a roar and the Ben's scream as well. They ran to help him, but it was too late. The monster was not there, but Ben was half dead. He gave some files to Leon and asked him to make Irons pay for his crimes, and died in Leon's hand.
Leon.
Where are you going, Ada?
To the chemical plant. I have a feeling that's where I'll find John.
Ada! Wait! Hey!
Leon, are you still there? We're leaving.
Are you crazy? The streets are still crawling with zombies.
It'll be all right, trust me. We found a way to the sewer. Follow us later.
Claire! Claire! Wait! Man, why doesn't anyone ever listen to me?
Time to go deeper. Leon and Ada went to the sewers and saw a woman in a lab coat, but she fired at Ada without hesitation. Leon just jumped to save the Ada, but the bullet hit him in the shoulder. Ada went after the woman while Leon passed out, and when they faced off, the woman disarmed Ada. She told Ada that her name is Annette Burkin, and she knows that the Ada is a spy. Ada pleaded and said that she is just looking for her boyfriend John, but Annette told her that the John is dead. Ada asked about what happened in the town, and she told her what happened to her husband. William Berkin created a new type of virus called G-Virus, but Umbrella tried to steal it from him, and he got shot trying to protect his life's work. The special unit led by the guy called Hank took the samples and went out, but there was another sample inside the William's pocket, and he injected himself with that. The mutation was beyond belief, and before the team can escape with the samples, reached them and killed all of them except Hank, who got unconscious. William, who was a monster now, stepped on the samples and broke them, and the rats in the sewer had the taste of the virus that led the city to the wide outbreak. Annette ended her story and tried to shoot Ada, whom she thought was an Umbrella spy, but Ada grabbed her arm, and their struggle ended up with ants falling inside the water stream. Ada tried to get back to Leon but saw a huge crocodile in the water. Leon woke up and went after Ada and found her shooting at something inside the water. The giant crocodile saw Leon and attacked him instead. Leon retreated inside the corridor and shot the monster, but the bullet did almost nothing to it. Leon noticed a huge gas capsule on the wall and had a quick plan. He dropped the capsule and get back. Crocodile bite the capsule and Leon, who was ready for this, shoot the gas tank and blew up the monster's head. After a while, Ada patched Leon's wounds and they went ahead toward the Umbrella's lab. On the other side, Claire and Sherry reached the sewers, but Sherry got sucked into a drainage and got unconscious. Claire went to search for her and faced Annette, whom survived the fall. They faced off at first, but when Claire found out that she's Sherry's mother, she told her about her situation. Annette was terrified and told Claire that G-monsters trying to reproduce and searched for a compatible gene, and that's why William was after Sherry. They separated to find Sherry before William, but they were too late. William found Sherry and implanted her with an embryo. Claire found her a bit later and saw that she is not well. They needed to get to Umbrella's secret lab as soon as possible. House of Dirty Secrets. While Leon and Ada were on the way to the lab, they got attacked by William, and he injured Ada's arm. Leon left her somewhere safe to find a way out. He found a train that could take them outside, but the Mr. X Tyrant was still following them. Leon had to face him a handful of times, and finally when he found a way to start the train, he faced Annette Berkin. Annette told Leon that she checked Ada's files, and she's sure that she's a spy sent here to steal G-Virus. But all of a sudden they heard William roar close by. Annette rushed to see her husband, but find him in a monstrous form beyond her imaginations. And before she could do anything, William ripped her stomach and left. Leon reached them after William was gone and took the sample of the virus from the Annette. He went to the power room and turned the power on, but heard Ada's voice behind him. Ada said, "Hand over the sample," and Leon turned to face the gun at him. Ada was the spy Annette claimed her to be, and Leon was disappointed. He told her that he don't believe that she is betraying him. Ada could not shoot Leon. He lowered her gun, but before saying anything, the Mr. X appeared out of nowhere and grabbed Ada. Ada tried to shoot the monster and hit him in the eye once or twice. The monster threw her harshly toward the power panel and stepped back. This step back was fatal because he dropped down to the molten iron pool. The machine that Ada was landed on got activated and a voice sample started to get repeated. The self-destruct sequence had been activated. Ada was too injured to continue and confesses her love for Leon. They shared a kiss and Ada died in the Leon's arms. Leon was mad that a virus can do this to the people and threw the sample to the molten pole to destroy it. There was nothing left, so he called Claire on the radio and told her about the train. Claire put Sherry somewhere safe to rest and tried to find a solution for her. Later she found Annette's half-dead body and told her about the Sherry's embryo. With her final breath, Annette gave Claire the instruction to create the vaccine. Her radio ringed. It was Leon telling him about the train and the way that they can escape. She asked Leon to get Sherry and went to make the vaccine for her. Leon fetched Sherry and put her inside the train, and then he went to open the gates for the train to get ready to leave. But there he faced Mr. X, mutated after a lava bath. The fight was inevitable, but no matter what kind of weapon Leon used, the monster did not flinch. Leon felt hopeless, but he heard Ada's voice from behind him. Something dropped hard on the ground and Ada's voice said, "Use it." Leon rushed to the case that was dropped there and found a rocket launcher. He grabbed the rocket launcher and aimed it at the monster, and a second later, monster was no more. On the other hand, Claire got the vaccine and went toward the platform but faced William once more. so she had to defeat him once and for all. Finally, she reached the platform and jumped on board the train in the last minute. They injected the vaccine to the Sherry, but just as she woke up, the train started to shake uncontrollably, and the voice control stated that a BOW found inside the train. Leon went to the next cart and saw William mutated out of control. Another self-destruct system got activated inside the train, and the train was supposed to get contaminated in about 3 minutes. The three of our heroes escaped in the last second before the train blew up, and thanks to Sherry's finding a way to control room, they stopped the train to get out of it safe. They ran to the end of the tunnel, and William overtook the train to see the counter of a self-destruct system reaches 0. Our heroes went out of the tunnel and see the daylight. They had to find a Chris and expose Umbrella. Nothing was over, literally.
Push the switch over there!
Got it!
Finally, the exit.
Are you alright?
I'm okay.
Where's Claire? Claire? Claire!
Right here!
Claire!
I guess we all made it. They just won't quit! Come on, we have to get out of here! Run! So, it's finally over. Sherry, you look terrible.
No worse than you, Claire.
Come on, time to leave.
Now? What's wrong? Is something following us?
We have to go. We don't have any time to waste.
Go? Where?
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.
Enter the Grim Reaper. I said nothing was over, because down inside the Umbrella's lab, one certain unconscious hunk woke up in the middle of all this. The city was out of control and completely lost. Hunk still had the G-Virus sample, and when he made the radio call to Umbrella's HQ, they were shocked to hear from him and asked him to meet the chopper in the RPD's entrance. Hunk went there in time with the G-sample and gave it to them. And once again, he escaped as the only surviving member of his team. Leon Scott Kennedy. If you are looking for a candidate for the worst luck in terms of job, then you should look no further. Mr. Leon is here to take the spot. He was born on 1977, which made him 21 at the time of Resident Evil 2 story. He was recruited by Raccoon City Police Department in 1998, but the issue was that he had a little bit of a good or bad strike of luck in his first supposed day of work. Leon was supposed to reach the town on September 28th, but maybe he was too lucky, because when he got in town one day late, he was the only cop left unharmed in the whole building. And the only other cop alive was Marvin. He's not egoistic, but has some cool way of handling things, and is a sort of a female favorite. He fell in love with Ada in a short night of horror that they have spent together, but was not lucky enough and lost her. So in the end, he knew that Ada was alive because she was the one dropped rocket launcher for him. Leon is 1.78 meters tall, and his blood type is A. The late Paul Haddad was the voice actor for him in this game, and an actor called Brad Renfro played him in the live-action advertisement for Resident Evil 2. Claire Redfield. Claire is an orphan and raised alongside his only family member, Chris Redfield. Chris trained her in hand-to-hand combat and weapon handling without knowing that this will save her life from a zombie outbreak one day. She was born on 1979. That made her 19 years old in the Raccoon City incident. When Chris joined the Air Force, he started to get some distance from Claire, but never stopped caring for her, and even introduced her to his new friend, the family man himself, the one and only Mr. Barry Burton. One fun fact about Claire is that Hideki Kamiya personally stated in an interview that her interest for custom bikes started with her college time, and she owned 2 bikes in the Resident Evil 2 time. So, rest assured that this girl still have another cool bike somewhere safe from the zombie outbreak. She is 169 centimeters tall and her blood type is O. One of the main things that shows the bond between Claire and Chris is the Made in Heaven jacket she wore in the game, while you can find the Chris's jacket in the STARS office. Ada Wong. Lady Mystery herself, Ada is 3 years older than Leon and was 24 in the time of Resident Evil 2 events. Ada is unofficially half Chinese, half American with 1.7 meters height. Her blood type is rare as her personality and it is AB. There is no exact information on her motives in the game, except that she was a spy for a long time. Her goal was to get access to virus sample, and she even got intimate with a scientist named John who worked for Umbrella. She even tried to get to Raccoon City under the disguise to find John in order to obtain G-virus sample. The only thing that this cold and manipulating girl did not count on was falling in love with the rookie cop in her operation. In the end, she faked her death to leave Leon behind, but could not leave him to get killed by the mutated Mr. X and dropped a rocket launcher to save him. Sherry Berkin. Sherry is the only child of one of the greatest scientists that the world has ever seen. Her parents, William and Annette Berkin, were too busy with work to spend enough time with her, and she developed a sort of independent personality that helped her to survive the zombie-infested Raccoon City with a bit of help with her newly found friends Leon and Claire. She was 12 years old when Resident Evil 2 events happened. Her blood type is O, and if she has a fraction of his mother and father's intelligence, then saving her maybe even save the world someday. One of the most important things about her is that she got a pendant in her birthday that holds her family picture inside, but in reality the pendant was a container for G-Virus and a backup that no one can think of. But what her parent did backfired and put her in a grave danger, because it seems like Umbrella knew about the sample. After the strike team failed to deliver a sample and got butchered by G. Burkin, they sent a handful of Mr. X Tyrants to town with some specific instructions. Kill every survivor, destroy the evidence connecting Umbrella to the outbreak, and the most important of all, get access to the sample in the Berkin's kid pendant. She is the only one in the history that got infected with G-Virus but got the vaccine and cured. Ben Bertolucci. Ben was a great reporter who was scooping for any story no one would go for. He was born on 1972 and died in 1998 when he was only 26. When he heard about the incident inside the mansion from his anonymous source, he started to get more info about the things. The more he digged, the more dirt was there to discover, and in the end he figured out the police chief Brian Irons is working with Umbrella. His survival instinct kicked in when he saw those zombies, and he grabbed a jail key and put a set of bars between himself and any other zombies outside. He must have thought that the cops will handle the outbreak and he can escape after the dust is settled, but what saved him for a day was not enough to save him from William Birkin in his G-mutated form. Marvin Branagh. My personal hero in the game is Marv. When the outbreak and the mismanagement of the Chief Irons tore the police forces apart, Marvin was one of the few who tried to help all he could. He stayed to help the people sheltering in the police station, but got bitten by a zombie. The last thing he did was to save others while giving his keycard to Claire, and then he went to his office to spend the last minutes he had as a human. He was preparing for Leon's welcome party just before the outbreak. He was 39 when he faced his heroic end in the September 29, 1998. He was a tall figure standing at 1.85 meters height, and I love to see more characters like him, but I'm not lucky here, am I? Robert Kendo. Robert was a master gunsmith. He was a 40-year-old typical American male. It has been said that he is half Japanese, half American. One of the greatest things about him was that he gave his guns to the people of the town to protect their loved ones against the death. But in the end, Mikami happened, and instead of becoming a regular character in the game, stayed a bit too close to his shop windows and got killed by zombies following Claire. I mean, what the hell, man? Don't you think that a window like that will break easily with the push of a zombie. By the way, he was a well-known man by the police force, and he was a close friend of the weapons expert of the stars, Barry Burton. Annette Berkin. Annette Berkin was a kind of a candidate for the worst mother in the world. She married William Berkin and they both worked hard for Umbrella in the Raccoon City's main branch. She was not as smart as her husband, but was a great researcher nonetheless. She was 34-year-old when the game event happened, and in the end, her motherhood made her survive enough to help Claire making a vaccine for Sherry, and somehow she redeemed herself before dying. William Berkin. William was one of the best and the most intelligent people that this world has ever seen. He got recruited by Umbrella in 1970 when he was just 18-year-old and worked on the T-Virus enhancement. He was the crown jewel of the team and was a close friend with Mr. Albert Wesker himself. He finally was able to discover a new and super strong strain of T-Virus called Golgotha or G-Virus. He was excited but felt that the company will not let him own his research and tried to sell the virus to another rival. But the strike force of the Umbrella came after him. They were pointing guns at each other and William was moving backward. But something fell from his desk, and this small distraction was enough for the enemy to gun him down. When he lost everything, he had only one thing in his mind: revenge. So he used the only remaining virus he had and turned into a nightmare terrorizing the city. Yes, he was the reason that the virus went viral inside the Raccoon City. Brian Irons. Brian Irons was the chief of police in Raccoon City. He was a charismatic figure respected in the town for his work, but underneath all that glory, a monster was there. He was under the direct payroll of the Umbrella and turned the police station into his own luxurious stay. He loved the artworks and taxidermy, and deep inside enjoyed torturing people and making them run for their life. So he loved the cat and mouse type of game in the most dirty way. He even had his own torture room under the police station. When the Umbrella was almost exposed by the Stars, he disbanded the Stars team to help the Umbrella, and even at the time of the outbreak gave so many destructive instructions to the police forces that they tore apart before they can do anything against the hordes of zombies. So technically he did everything Umbrella asked him to do, but in the end Umbrella betrays everyone easily, and they abandoned him as well. Finally, this hidden evil faced his death by the hand of G-mutated William Berkin. Hunk. Mr. Grim Reaper, the man who cannot be killed, and a lot more cool things were used to describe this man. He is a loyal Umbrella elite force member, and when he was ordered to collect the G-Virus sample from William Berkin, he initially succeeded. But they did not count on Berkin holding another sample in his hand, so he turned into a monster and killed most of the Hunk's team members, except for the Hunk himself. Hunk was unconscious for almost the entire Resident Evil 2 story, but when he woke up he called the Umbrella HQ and delivered the sample as he promised. There's almost nothing we know about him, not even his name and age, and this made him cool and interesting as hell. Hello and welcome back to Retro Heaven, guys. This is the fourth video of our Resident Evil 2 Retrospective series, and in this video we will take a look at the gameplay elements of this game. With that said, this is Daniel from Retro Heaven and welcome to Resident Evil Retrospective Part 4. As you could see in the previous videos, all aspects of Resident Evil 2 got extreme jump in terms of quality. And when the visuals and story aspects get improvement, it's fair to see the same jump in terms of gameplay elements. Before we start, I gotta repeat the same rules that we had in the previous videos, I mean Resident Evil 1 Retrospective. We will give 2 scores to each aspect of the game. First one is looking at the game based on the time that it was released and the technology available back then. And the second one is in the eye of a modern gamer living in today's world. Camera and presentation. Camera and presentation in Resident Evil 1 was amazingly fresh for its time. And based on the story we have already told you in RE 1.5, you could see that the team was keen on topping RE1 with any means necessary. In Resident Evil 2, camera angles are more cinematic, and it's especially felt at the beginning of the game. The angle of camera they have selected at the streets of Raccoon City makes you feel the life was a part of this town not a long time ago. For example, before you enter the boss at the beginning of the game, you can see a dead man at a coffee table on the sidewalk, as he tried to have a good time and had a coffee and enjoy the life. These kind of things in the camera presentation of Resident Evil 2 make you think twice before moving inside the town, because you blink and you might miss one of the amazing things that shows Raccoon City was full of life a while ago. And obviously, a remote mansion out in the jungle could not provide the same effect. It's not only about the beginning of the game, and in general the camera position is much better in Resident Evil 2. But things are not all good and glorious, because there were some times that I could lose the sense of perspective easily. For example, after Iron dies and you defeat the boss, the ladder that comes down to you is almost in an angle that you cannot locate it inside the playing ground. There were some other examples of such mix-up, and I have to say this was the only issue I had with the presentation and the atmosphere of the game. With that said, our original score for the camera and presentation of the game is 98 out of 100. When it comes to the modern day camera and presentation, I gotta say that the game did much better than Resident Evil 1. It may be hard for some people to stand the pixelated resolution of that era, but the truth is that when you compare Resident Evil 2 with other artifacts of that time, you will see that it holds much better than many, and we will give it score 75 out of 100 in today's perspective. Combat. The combat aspect of Resident Evil 1 was like a fresh flow of air in a hot summer's day. The core aspect of the game was the same when it comes to the combat, but since our heroes had greater animation and a smoother maneuvering skill, we could see much better things than we saw in Resident Evil 1's fighting, and battling the enemies was much easier as a result. Once again, the same critics are applicable here. You can't run and fight, you can't reload at will out of the inventory, and you have to aim forward and then upward or downward. But all these are much cleaner and faster, and I could connect with them a lot easier as a gamer back then. On the other hand, different weapons felt a lot more reliable in this game. Your arsenal for Claire and Leon was almost too different, and this made a huge experience for each character, so personally I feel that it's great improvement overall. I gotta say, it's the same old feeling but with a much better execution. And God knows how hard it is to revert back to Resident Evil 1 after the smooth experience you had in Resident Evil 2. When it comes to giving the score, the late 90s will bring the score 75 out of 100 for this game. And this 75 out of 100 comes because of the improvements we had and the problems we have in the Resident Evil 2. When I look at this game in the eye of a modern gamer, I gotta say that I can feel connected to this game's combat a lot more than what I felt I could do. When you scale up the things to 2021, the score goes down, but not as much as what we saw in Resident Evil 1. So, we gotta give this game's combat in 2021 the score of 50 out of 100. Puzzles. If I wanna be honest, the puzzles in this game all turned into some mechanical object movements. There's almost no mandatory puzzle in this game, and all you have to do is pick up this key from this place and go to other place and use it. No need to use your brain at all, and these things are not called puzzles in my book. The feeling of the puzzle in Resident Evil 1 was a lot more felt, and the progression system in Resident Evil 2 was the actual puzzle compared to Resident Evil 1. So it's a downgrade coming from Resident Evil 1 and the cryptic puzzles you could see in Spencer Mansion. But on the other hand, inventory management is much more complex this time. The backtracking is a lot longer in the RPD, and the items are usually usable in multiple locations. On the other hand, the amazing zapping system was there. For example, when you find a side pack and a machine gun, you had a hard choice to make. You could leave it for the other hero or pick it up yourself. Obviously, dumb me was too greedy and picked everything in the first try, and in the second campaign left empty-handed and made the life much harder for myself than it should be. These kind of actions that would affect the other campaign was something quite fresh back then, and I gotta say, it is still amazing today. The best puzzle in this game are not a part of mandatory gameplay. Armory room puzzle and 2 different secret rooms in the lab are the best examples here. You can finish the game without even knowing about these ones, and these are the part of Resident Evil 2 that makes the replayability a lot better than Resident Evil 1. Personally, I feel that the secret research room was the best puzzle we could get in Resident Evil 2, and you could use the zapping system in the full effect to get access to this puzzle's result. In order to access to this room, you had to kill a boss in the lab, clear the computer keyboard, and then enter the password as guest and register your fingerprint. Then go to the other lab wing and activate your fingerprint. After that, you had to repeat almost the same thing with another character, and the second fingerprint gave you the access to open the door and see some amazing things inside that hidden lab. Puzzles for Resident Evil 2 deserve a score 80 out of 100 for the time of its release, and when it comes to 2021, the score will not change at all because the zapping system is still fresh up to this day. So 80 out of 100 for both aspects will be in order. Atmosphere, story, and engagement. The atmosphere of Resident Evil 2 is clearly the same structure that you have seen in Resident Evil 1. Mansion setting was changed to RPG station, and once you were done there, the middle section was the underground passageway in Resident Evil 1 and sewers in Resident Evil 2. In the end, both games made you reach a lab and escape before everything blew up high. But what makes Resident Evil 2 a whole lot better was the sheer size of each section. First of all, we had one of the hardest introductions ever in a Resident Evil game, and I remember getting killed in the alleys before reaching RPD non-stop for 1 hour straight before I can make it barely alive to the Kendo's gun shop. Right off the bat, an amazing thing for me was limping in danger mode. It was not present in the first game, and it made me go down easier when I got in danger health, and the experience was much greater than what we saw in the past game. This made the jump in the immersion I needed. When you reach RPD, things get more and more bittersweet. The feeling of a huge place was so amazingly mixed that it's hard to explain. Let's put it this way. This is an old and historical building, and at the same time you will see that the building is modernized to some extent. This mixed feeling is like getting back to a place where you lived once and left there for years. You have a sense of alienation and familiarity at the same time, and this is the same thing that I felt with the whole Resident Evil 2 atmosphere. The sewer section are much better and more reliable comparing to Resident Evil 1, and when it comes to the lab section, you will see how things have multiple extra layer of presentation details. When you reach the main hall in the center of the lab, you are surrounded by bottomless pits, and the feeling of nothingness is quite something to behold. One of the best aspects of the atmosphere in Resident Evil 2 is the sound design of the game. If you want to feel what's the meaning of this, try some of these sections. Music in the vertical moving train yard still gives me goosebumps. And if you want to feel the sound effect and feel loneliness in the game, just go to the West office and listen to the sound of the fan rotation. The feeling of loneliness that comes from this rotation is amazing. But the best example of sound in this game for me is the metal staircase between the West office and upstairs. When you get there, the moaning of zombies can be heard in the wind, and you feel like there's a city of dead outside, and you're not safe there at all. What's funny is that this section of the game is one of the safest places that you could find in the whole scenarios. You will never get hurt, you will never face any enemy, but this sound effect is so strong that I can't stand there for long, and I feel frightened even hearing those voices. This aspect of Resident Evil 2 is extremely well for me, and I have to give it a full 100 out of 100 for both back then's score and today's score. Control scheme. We have discussed the tank control in details in Resident Evil 1 Retrospective, and my opinion did not change in this regard. If you want to see a game that shows static type of camera and 360-degree movement scheme, then please go and check Legacy of Kain Defiance and see why these two are not mixed up very well. In Resident Evil 2, the tank control is much better than Resident Evil 1, but there is still some room for perfection. And we will give the control scheme for this game 95 out of 100 for the time of its release. The score for 2021 will remain the same because there's nothing you can do in the pre-rendered background that works better than tank control. So 95 out of 100 for 2021 as well. Extra contents. Resident Evil 1 did not have much of extra content, but Resident Evil 2 takes what was there and dialed it up to 100. You will have access to 2 different characters with separate storylines right in the beginning. But when you finish the game with one of them, you will give another save for alternate campaign. And this alternate campaign for each character will bring you total of 4 campaigns for the main story. After that, if you did not get the rank A in any of the campaigns, you won't see anything new. But if you get it, then you will get 4th Survivor as a great treat. This is the canon story of Hank escaping the city with a sample of G-Virus. Once you complete this minigame, you will be treated to a hilariously scary game. Tofu Mod is the same thing that you have played as Hank, but this time instead of playing as a badass commando, you play as a huge chunk of tofu moving around and, speaking some gibberish thing in Japanese. The funny thing is that it was actually the hitbox detection system for the game's testers, and made it to the final product as a joke. This is the hardest thing you can find in Resident Evil 2 because all you have is a knife and not much items in terms of healing. If you think that's the end, then you are wrong, because the DualShock version of the game brought Extreme Battle to the board. This is another minigame with 4 playable characters you need to unlock. Claire, Leon, Ada, and Chris will be playable. Chris even has a new updated model for this game. You have to get back from the end of the game to the beginning to obtain some antivirus bombs, and the things is some kind of a what if scenario. This minigame have multiple levels of difficulty, and in order to get the full experience of what Extreme Battle has to offer, you need to play it at least 12 times. All these games and mini campaigns will give you a package of something like 24 hours of pure gameplay, and just add the unlockable guns to feel why this is one of the best classic Resident Evil 1 games in terms of extra content. Based on this, I will give this game on its release date 100 out of 100, and in 2021 a score will be a bit lower as 90 out of 100. In the end, this game got the score of 548 out of 600. That translates into 91.3 out of 100 for the release dates, which is a damn good score if you ask me. Modern day score is obviously lower, and the total Resident Evil 2 score in this aspect based on 2020 look is 490 out of 600. That can translate into the average of 81.66 out of 100, which is once again a great score for a game that's older than many of our audience. So what do you think? Do you think this game deserves this score or not? Please leave your score in the comment section and let us know why you have improved or decreased the scores that we have given. Okay, thank you for watching this video, guys. Please like it and share it with your friends because we want to have more awesome audiences such as yourself. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment and tell us what you want and what you need to see inside the channel. With that said, this is Daniel from Retro Haven, and I will see you guys in the next one. Okay guys, as we have talked before, Resident Evil 1 was ported to almost everything, including my grandma's fridge. And I personally believe that Resident Evil 2 will take the same treatment by Capcom. But pretty much to my surprise, there were not that many ports for this awesome game. But we will take a look at them right now. The first thing that I want to talk about is the original version was PlayStation 1 version, and we don't consider PlayStation 1 version in here, but we might took it as a reference to compare some of the aspects of the game to that original version. The first set of ports that we want to take a look is PC version. Unfortunately, the PC version of this game did not age well. We have a version which is similar for Windows 95 and 98, but unfortunately it's a horrible thing to run this game on modern hardware because you cannot run it at all without any modification. The amazing hardware that was needed for this game was beyond my belief at that time and very funny at the current time. At that time you had to have something like 32 megabytes of RAM to run this game, and your processor should have something like 200 megahertz of power. which is quite lame in today's standard, but back then, believe me, it was a huge amount of money needed to pay for such system. Obviously, I don't know how I ran it on a system with 24 megabytes of memory, but finally I was able to play this amazing game on the PC with all its glory. Graphic-wise, it was not that different from Resident Evil 2 on PlayStation, but I feel that there were some, amazing little things that made it separate from Resident Evil 2 on PS1. And personally, I think PS1 was a little bit smoother, but PC version was a lot better in terms of running graphically. But there was another PC version that came out a lot later. This version is known as Source Next version among the fans. This version was released on 2006, and the developer Source Next released the game on PC with a lot of modifications that made the game much better. First of all, the resolution of the game was 640 by 480, and you needed 64 megabytes of RAM to run this game, which was not that much for 2006. The quality of full motion videos were much better in this version, and I don't know how they pulled it out, but it was amazing. One of the most amazing hassles that you will face running a PC version of Resident Evil 2 on a modern hardware is saving game. When you save the game and then come back later to load the game, you will not find your file. I remember I was able to solve this by changing the root and other things that I want to save my file, but I don't remember the specifications, so I suggest you to do the research before installing this game and expect to save and load it. Resident Evil 1 on Sega Saturn was a gem to behold for the fans of this doomed console. So, expectation for Resident Evil 2 on Sega Saturn was not that much out of the question. But unfortunately, people at Capcom decided not to go for this release. They even worked on a version for Sega Saturn, but based on what Shinji Mikami said, the graphic was much lower than PlayStation 1, and overall quality was not pleasing enough for the company to risk everything and release this game on Sega Saturn. Instead, they released this game on another Sega console, which was the last console of this company. Sega Dreamcast was the host of Resident Evil 2, and one of the best versions of this game is present on this console. There were multiple amazing features on this version. For example, if you had a VMU, then you could see the character's health live displayed on this VMU. This was a cool feature for that time, and I believe that it's still cool to see some small touches such as this one. And let's not forget, the whole game was running on a smooth 60 frames per second. To be honest, I still prefer to play this game on Dreamcast, and the cost for this game is around $100 as a full pack. But don't forget that if you get the full pack of this game, you will get a demo version of Resident Evil called Veronica, which worth a shot to see how much amazing this game has improved in some few years. The next big company that went for Resident Evil 2 was Nintendo. They released this game for two of their consoles, Nintendo Gamecube and before that Nintendo 64. Let's tackle Nintendo Gamecube before Nintendo 64 because that one has an amazing thing to talk about. Technically speaking, the Gamecube version of Resident Evil 2 is exactly the same as DualShock version that was released on PlayStation 1. So, we can say there's not much to talk about because there is no difference at all. The same graphic style, the same output, the same pacing, everything was the same. But the most amazing version that Nintendo hosted was Nintendo 64. Some people call this version impossible port because the size of any cartridge for Resident Evil 2 on Nintendo 64 was almost around 64 megabytes. This amount of space is not even enough to think about porting this game. To understand it better, you should consider that Resident Evil 2 on PlayStation had more than 350 megabytes of data for each disc, but they put everything in one tiny cartridge with 64 megabytes of size. That's mind-blowing even on today's standards, and how they achieved it was beyond the skills of a normal programmer. 20 employees of Capcom in Angel Studios, which was one of the internal studios of Capcom, released this game after 1 year of working and spending $1 million budget to create one of the most amazing ports that the world have ever seen. They had to sacrifice something to gain such amazing feat, and as a result, the cutscenes and the audio of this version is horrible when you compare it to the other versions. But when you think about the size and what they have done, you will appreciate what you receive. There were some neat features as well. You could change the color of your blood, and you had a new mode. You could randomize many aspects of the game and make any playthrough a new and somehow fresh experience. Another amazing thing that this version had was 16 new game documents. These documents were known as X-Files, and they were written by one amazing and talented guy called Tetsuro Oyama. The only annoying thing that I found on this version was the lack of extreme battle mode, which was, a pity, but you have to consider the size of the data they could work with. The last port that we want to talk about is one of the most horrible ports that I've ever seen. If you have ever heard about Tiger Electronics, you know that their name is almost opposite of what we call quality. And their handheld version of consoles was a terrible thing to behold. They have created a completely new version of this game in 2.5D style. And based on the lack of color in this console, you could see what would happen to our favorite characters. First of all, you could play only as Leon Scott Kennedy, and the Leon Scott Kennedy in monochrome is not that appealing to watch. On the other hand, many aspects of the games are gone. Many things, many locations, many gameplay elements, many enemies, all of them are gone, and the pacing is mind-boggling. It's so slow that you will hate the game, you will hate yourself, and you will hate Gamecom after all these other things. If you are so curious to play it, just give it a shot, use an emulator or something and play it. But if you want to experience Resident Evil 2 and hate Resident Evil series, then go and definitely play this version. If you are a fan of Resident Evil, avoid it at all costs. Before we end this video, I have to say that I have to mention a tech demo for Game Boy Advance. Resident Evil 2 on Game Boy Advance had a tech demo around 1999. And this version was something quite amazing if they could pull it off. It was very different from what you see in original Resident Evil 2, and it was not a mind-boggling and shitty version such as Gamecom's version. But in the end, they could not pull it off, and people at Capcom decided not to go for this version, so we did not see the game. In the version they have released, you could play only in 2 of the rooms, and you could use the inventory in, some specific manner that was not complete, obviously. But nonetheless, it's another piece of history and a great what-if scenario. Maybe in another universe, we have a complete version of Game Boy Advance Resident Evil 2 as an amazing piece of memory for people. Who knows? Well, let's start on an amazingly low note. Knife in this game is worse than what it was on Resident Evil 1. Believe me, the many times that I have hit the ground or the floor or anything when I tried to hit anything with knife was beyond my count. So I decided to ignore the knife. The knife is not a bad weapon in open areas. But believe me, if you are close to a wall or you are in a corridor or almost 90% of the game, you cannot use a knife unless you are some kind of Resident Evil god or expert. The power of the knife is not that much different from what you saw in Resident Evil 1, but the usage was much harder. And if you consider the fact that you have much more ammo to work with Resident Evil 2, then you will not use knife as frequently as you used it on Resident Evil. The first weapon and the most basic one that you will get in Resident Evil 2 is Handgun, but we have 4 different types of handgun in this game. The first one that you will encounter is somehow different from what you see in Resident Evil 1. Leon starts the game with H&K VP70. This handgun is very small but very effective. It uses 9mm parabellum rounds. And if you pay attention and use a small key, you will be able to find some parts to mix it with this gun. And when you mix the parts with the gun, you will get the custom handgun. This weapon will allow you to shoot burst fire. Each time you press the trigger, you will shoot 3 times unless you go to the menu and change the setting of this gun and make it to the single fire shot. But believe me, using it on the burst fire is very satisfying, and on the other hand, it's a trick you will run out of bullet almost as soon as you start using it, because you will not get much handgun bullets. But believe me, it's worth a shot. On the other hand, Claire starts the game with Brewing HP. Brewing HP is a standard police gun in Resident Evil 2. One of the major differences between this gun and the gun that Leon uses is the ammo count. You will get a magazine of 18 rounds with Leon, but this gun will carry only 13 rounds in each magazine. The power, the firing rate, and everything else is the same. And just consider that this gun is not only belong to Claire. If you play as Ada in the midsection of Resident Evil 2 with Leon, you will use the same type of handgun. The last handgun that we want to mention in Resident Evil 2 is called Single Action Army. This amazing and retro type weapon is an optional one that you will get using some amazing trickery. When you select any difficulty except easy and avoid picking any items while you are going to the police station, you will face zombified Brad Vickers. If you kill the Brad Vicker, then you will get one key, and that key will be used to open one box which will give you a lot of new things, including new costumes and this single action army called For Claire. The rate of firing is amazingly high, but there is a catch. It can carry only 6 bullets at a time, and reloading it will take much more time than what you get with normal handgun. Nonetheless, the style of using it and the speed is amazingly cool, and I suggest you to try it out. In total, you will get a lot of handgun ammo in this game. For Leon, you will get something between 420, 430 up to 510, 500, something like that. But for Claire, you will get a lot less. You will get something between 350 to 400 bullets per each playthrough. Believe me, this is the ammo count that I have made for normal. If you play on easy, definitely you will get a lot more, but who plays on easy? Except for me when I was recording this game after a long time. Once again, it seems that Capcom loves to give more to the guys, and each pick of Leon will have more ammo count. With Leon you will get more picks, more ammo, and more of everything. But remember that you will get the burst shot, so you might need more ammunition for this gun. There's no way that you play a Resident Evil game and you don't use shotgun. But let me tell you, the shotgun in Resident Evil 2 belongs to only Leon, and Claire was not able to find any shotgun and use the merits of this amazing gun. The model of the shotgun that they took in this game is Remington M1100P. This is a shortened version of normal M1100, and the barrel is cut as a result. So you can use it easier, you can carry it easier, but you can upgrade it to the normal long barreled version. I don't know how the upgrades of this weapon works, because when you find shotgun parts and apply them on the normal shotgun, the whole look of the gun changed into something new. And I cannot imagine the same thing is available by a small part change in the real world. The model details are good, and I gotta say they look a lot like what we see in real life. One of the problems that I have with shotgun is that when you use the standard model, the kick of the gun is not that great. But when you upgrade it, it kicks like hell. I don't know how this amount of kick have been added with just some part upgrades. But it's a huge difference, and it bothers me every time I play this game. As for shotgun shells, you will get a lot of them. In the Leon A on normal difficulty, you will get something around 100 shotgun shells, and if you play Leon B, you will get more, something like 110, 115, I lost the count honestly. But you will get enough that you can finish the game with a lot of ammo inside your inventory. When I said shotgun is only belong to Leon, then you should know that something special should be there for Claire as well. Claire have 2 guns that Leon will never get. One of them is the bow gun. The bow gun is an amazing fictional gun that I never saw anything like it in the real life. So if you have seen anything in the real life like that, please let me know and get me out of this cave. This weapon uses some bolts, and each time you fire it, you will fire 3 bolts. It looks like that it can be useful to take down multiple enemies at the same time, but believe me, there is nothing satisfying about it except for the sound that it makes when you shoot something. In Claire A On normal difficulty you will get something around 150 bolts, but in Claire B you will get some more, something around 150 to 175, 180, something like that. But it's not that useful, and I almost left it in my item box and never used it in the game. One of the most satisfying weapons in the Resident Evil 2 is Mach 11 submachine gun. The submachine gun can be used by both Claire and Leon, but because of the zapping system you cannot use it for both scenarios. If you select it in one scenario, in the other scenario it will be missing. This weapon is strong, fast and easy to use. And the look of it's amazing. The details of the model is great and it looks like a hybrid of multiple amazing guns that you will see in the real world. There is no bullet count for this one, you will get some percentage and it will show you out of 100% how much capacity of your gun you have used. You will get the ammo only in B scenarios with both Leon and Claire, and in A scenario you will pick the gun and you will not be able to pick any extra ammunition for it. But don't worry, if you finish the game fast enough, you will get rewarded with this gun with infinite ammo to use it in the whole playthrough. Next stop is Magnum. Once again, this weapon is only available to our beloved Leon Scott Kennedy. You will get this strong behemoth of weapon in both campaigns, Leon A and Leon B, but Claire have to deal with it in another way. So, the look of this gun is amazing and the feel of using it is more amazing. When you use this gun, you can pop any zombie's head with a huge satisfaction. Each magazine holds 8 rounds, and when you fire them, you will feel like a king inside the game. You can kill any enemy, any boss, anything with this gun. But be aware, you will get around 40 total bullets in Leon A and something around 70-75 in Leon B. So use them wisely and use them on the bosses most of the time. If you don't like the standard Desert Eagle, then you can look for the parts in this game. Getting the parts is a little bit tricky. You have to carry the lighter, light something, create a flashlight, and then you will see the item on the ground. But you get it so late in the game that you don't have much time to use it. Usually I use it in Leon B to kill the final version of William Berkin, because the kick will move you backward and it will keep you away from his harm while you are shooting constantly. Okay, Claire fans, don't worry, Claire is not in disadvantage. If she did not get the Magnum, instead she gets grenade launcher. It's an M79 model, which is not a real life model of a grenade launcher, but it's amazing that you will get it early in the game and you can use it on almost any enemy you encounter. This weapon is strong, it uses some amazing rounds that you will get. There are 3 types of rounds available for this: grenade rounds, acid rounds and flame rounds. Each one of them is useful against some specific type of enemies, and when you play as Claire, this is your main weapon, trust me. You will get around 50 grenades round in the both campaigns, but flame rounds is a little bit trickier. In Claire A you will get around 40 flame rounds, but in Claire B you will get more, something beyond 50. Acid rounds in Claire A is almost non-existent. You will get something around 20-25 acid rounds. But if you play on Claire B, you will get something above 40, something like 45, 46, something like that. The graphical details is very good. It looks a lot like the real life version of the grenade launcher that was used in the world for a long time. Honestly, as a Leon fanboy, every time I play Resident Evil 2, I wish that I could use grenade launcher with Leon. Okay, let's deal with another exclusive for Claire. Claire will get the spark shot in this game in both scenarios in the tunnels inside the factory. This weapon cannot be upgraded and you won't get any ammunition for it. But when you use it, it's very satisfactory to blow up everything. You have to use it wise, because there are not much of the ammo stored inside the gun. This fictional weapon looks great and I think it could be inside the Dino Crisis game. The color scheme, the size, everything looks cool. But let me warn you, it's not as strong as it looks. You cannot use it to kill bosses easily. You just have to use it on normal enemies and enjoy popping their heads off. If Claire has Spark Shot, Leon has Flamethrower. This weapon is very useful for plant type enemies. and you can see why it's useful to kill Ivies faster than what you could do with Claire. Since Claire has flame rounds, she can take care of this type of enemy using flames, and you will get the flamethrower as Leon to use it. But don't worry, this weapon is very good but without any extra ammunition, so use it wisely. You will get it in both scenarios in the sleeping quarters, much late in the game inside the lab. Remember, once again, this is not a very strong weapon and you cannot use it on the bosses and expect to take them down fast. Once again, the model is great with much details that desired for the PlayStation 1 era, but this model is not a real-life flamethrower. You cannot find one standard flamethrower that looks like this, and at the same time you will see a lot of details from different real-life flamethrowers merged into this version. The last gun you will get in this game is the rocket launcher. This freaking strong gun will be available only in B scenarios for both Claire and Leon. In both scenarios, Ada will drop it while you are fighting Mr. X's final form, and one shot will destroy this enemy. But you will get a very limited amount of ammo for it. You will get only 4 rockets, and you can use one of them to destroy Mr. X and 3 of them on the final boss, the final version of Mr. William Berkin. But don't worry, if you finish the game fast, once again you will unlock this weapon with unlimited ammo and you can pop up everything that moves around the Raccoon City. Our final weapon today is a Gatling gun. This gun is not available in the normal playthrough, and you will unlock it with unlimited ammo. So don't worry about the ammo count, don't worry about anything else. Just fire up your gun and destroy everything. Remember, this gun has a little bit of warm-up before every time you're trying to shoot it, so consider the distance between yourself and the enemy and then use it as much as you like. What do you mean haystack? You cannot kill a zombie with a haystack. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that he's an expert, but he is just a moron. And he can go. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Please leave a like and share it with your friends. We want to have a lot of awesome audiences such as yourself. So click on the bell icon down below and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Please check our other videos, and with that said, this is Daniel from Retro Haven, and I will see you guys in the next video. Well, the first thing that we will see in this game are zombies. Zombies are not the typical zombies that you could see in Resident Evil 1, but instead, in Resident Evil 2, you will see the civilians turned into flesh-eating monsters. Zombies in this game are totally different based on appearance. You will see female zombies, you will see police officers, you will see civilians, and the variety was a lot better than Resident Evil 1. Personally, I tried my best count how many zombies you will encounter during the game, and I figured out that in most cases you will face around 100 zombies regardless of the scenario that you are playing. But I think Leon A scenario had the most number of zombies amongst all the 4 scenarios. Usually the best weapon to use against them is handgun, but when they come in number, using a shotgun with Leon will help you to decapitate them in a group number. And using something like crossbow and grenade launcher with Claire is another useful method to deal with hordes of zombies. One of the best approaches is shooting them from distance, and when they fall, just run beside them and ignore them. There is a specific type of zombie that some kind of acts as a boss. The poor Brad Vicker, the chicken heart pilot of the Resident Evil 1, makes a cameo in Resident Evil 2. As I said before, you can unlock some new things like clothes and a new weapon if you don't pick anything in the normal difficulty until you reach Raccoon City Police Department. When you reach there, go to the downstairs and you will face Brad. This zombie Brad is super strong and you have to shoot him around 17-18 times to bring him down. At first I thought these are the same Cerberuses you faced inside Resident Evil 1 campaign. But when I thought about it, I found out that there is no Umbrella involvement in police department, and these dogs are normal dogs infected with T-virus by accident, and they are not the result of the lab experiment. Despite this change, to be honest, the behavior of the dogs is exactly the same that you saw from Cerberuses in Resident Evil 1. The movement, attacking style, artificial intelligence, and everything is almost the same. but this time you will face a lot less of them inside any campaign. To be honest, I couldn't find any campaign that I faced more than 10 zombie dogs. The best way to deal with them is to stay far away from them and shoot them with handgun bullet, but do not use rapid fire. Trigger happy people will only waste bullet. Just count the bullets and hear the noise. When a zombie wants to stand up, they make a growling sound, and after that you have to shoot them. But if you shoot them before that, you will waste bullet without hitting them. Finally, their death sound is something distinguishable, so you can recognize it easily. Yes, these annoying crows are back in Resident Evil 2, but their scope is much more limited compared to Resident Evil 1. These crows are not a threat that they were before, because you will face them in rare occasions in Resident Evil 2, but they appear in hordes and they can finish you off if you move slow. The best way to deal with them is to avoid them, but if you have to kill them, just use handgun and don't waste any other type of precious ammunition. Personally, I think that I could not count more than 10 crows in any of the campaigns, and I think they were not even close to 10. Lickers are the new enemies that appear in Resident Evil 2. They are one of the scariest things that you will see in this game, and one of the most memorable cutscenes of the game belongs to the first entrance of any Licker in Campaign A for either Leon or Claire. Never ever try to use handgun on them, because it only pisses them off and they will get mad and come at you with unbelievable speed. So try to stay a little bit close, shoot them with shotgun, grenade launcher or any strong weapon. When they fall, they are not dead, they will stand up again. So wait for them to stand up again and then shoot. If you shoot before that, you will waste bullets. The highest number of appearance of the normal Licker that I could count in Resident Evil 2 was 8. But don't worry, you will see a lot more Lickers, but not the normal ones. There is an advanced version of the Lickers out there trying to haunt your dreams. These advanced and evolved Lickers are some grayish color, and you can recognize them by hearing their voice, seeing the huge claw that they have grown, and the way that they will attack you. They appear mostly inside the late game scenario parts, but in the first part of the game you will face normal Lickers. In total you will see something around 6 to 10 advanced Lickers inside the whole game, but they are deadly. They can one-shot kill you if you are not in fine condition. The origin of this enemy came from normal zombies. When normal zombies mutate beyond some level, they will turn into Lickers. As a result, they will lose their eyesight, because their brain will overgrow and expose their whole upper face. But when they lack vision, they will make it up with hearing. They can hear every single movement that you will make. So if you are close by, just stay still and tiptoe toward the first exit. The spiders had a triumph return in Resident Evil 2, but they are not the same spiders you could see in Spencer Mansion, because they are the normal city and urban side spiders that were infected with T-virus. These creatures can poison you, and they are fast based on their size, but they are easy to avoid. You will not face many of them, and it's best to ignore them and try to run away. But if you are getting annoyed by them, you can blast them with a shotgun or grenade launcher. Don't waste too many bullets, because you can kill them easy. You will face them 2 or 3 times based on the scenario that you are playing, but in the end they are dangerous and avoidable. So my advice is ignore them and exit the room. They usually can't do anything to you unless you are very unlucky, and in that case a blue herb can deal with the damage. About the number, I have to tell you that they will appear as 6 total giant spiders in most of the scenarios, and only in Claire A you will see less, with a total 4 giant spiders. Ivies are another fascinating enemy that only belong to Resident Evil 2. As a matter of fact, the original story of Resident Evil 2 was supposed to be inside another lab under the Spencer Mansion, and this lab was full of these type of monsters. They are based on the vegetations, infected with T-virus to create some kind of bioweapon that has no heart, no eyesight, and nothing to fear, a deadly plant. Their method of attack is easy. They use their vines to bring you closer and hug you, and they will poison you if given a chance. You will face around 5 of them, but don't worry, there is another stage of evolution for these IVs. When a normal IV gets exposed to P epsilon gas, they will mutate beyond the normal level and they will become something more and more aggressive. They can spit acid toward you and they can be deadlier than the normal IVs. You will face this type only in B scenario and you will face at most 7 or 8 of them. The best weapon to deal with both type of IVs is flame based weapons. If you are Leon, use the Flamethrower. If you are Claire, equip the grenade launcher and use flame rounds. The first boss that you encounter in this game is not a difficult one. It's called the G monster, and these G monsters has 2 types. There are G-type adult and G-type young versions. Both of them are created using the same method. Actually, when somebody who is compatible with G-virus gets infected, then he or she will try to transfer the G-virus to other hosts. If the host is compatible with the DNA code of that person, then it will accept it and will grow to a huge monster. But if the compatibility is not there, then the embryo will be rejected from the host's body. This process will kill the host, but the creature who jumps out of the body has the ability to survive, and this creature is called G-monster. Each G-monster carries some young G-monsters and puke them whenever they see a chance to infect some other people. So when you face this creature, try to use normal weapons like shotgun or grenade launcher. There is no need to use extreme firepower because you can kill this creature with less than 10 bullets using the guns I have mentioned earlier. Technically speaking, you may see another monster before the G-monster, and this monster is called Mr. X. Or if I want to be more specific, Tyrant T103. This creature is the actual result of injecting T-virus into specific hosts that have the capability to grow beyond the normal level of human infection. As a result, they are more than 2 meters tall, wearing a nice leather trench coat. You will face this creature only in B scenario, and it will stalk you through the whole game. Inside the police station, this creature can be a nuisance because it can appear anytime. But rest assured, these appearances are all scripted in the original Resident Evil 2, but they are scary nonetheless. This creature is especially slow, and if you get close to him, he will try to swing a punch at you or try to smack you with both hands. The best way is to get close enough to trigger its attack and then move back a couple of steps and then run past by him. If you want, you can shoot him with the strong guns and take him down, but taking him down will not do much good to you because he will stand up eventually. The only advantage is that if you play on harder level, he will drop some ammo for you. The trench coat we have talked about is not only for fashion choice. This trench coat actually has some amazing effects on this creature and it will stop its mutation. So if you destroy this trench coat, the creature might mutate beyond control, and that's exactly what happens at the end of the game. At the end of the game, this creature will drop into a lava pool and gets mutated as a result. So you will face a version of him that you cannot destroy with conventional weapons, and you have to wait until Ada drops you the rocket launcher to destroy this creature with only 1 bullet. The Giant Alligator was a fun surprise for me when I played the game first, but now when I think about it, it doesn't make any sense. Because it's not the result of the Umbrella experiment directly, and most probably would be a pet that your parents flushed down the toilet. But it doesn't make sense to grow up that fast to become this huge without anybody noticing. Nonetheless, this boss fight is amazing. You have a very easy way to kill this creature with dropping the capsule and blow up this creature. But if you have enough firepower and you are resilient enough, you can shoot it to make it back off and drill a hole in the wall in order to escape from you. But we strongly suggest you to use the first method. To be honest, one of the most amazing things that I have seen inside this game are the people who are killing this creature using knife only. These guys are Resident Evil 2 gods without any question. This giant moth is the only optional boss in the whole game. To be honest, in most of the speedruns they ignore this creature and try to run out of the game as fast as possible. These creatures have hosted one of the rooms inside the lab and destroyed everything inside, and when you try to get there, you will face some larvae dropping from the ceiling. Just ignore these creatures and enter the room. To kill this creature, you have to use something like enhanced shotgun or some strong weapon like Magnum or grenade launcher for Claire. And then shoot this creature 2-3 times and it will drop dead. But the most amazing thing is that if you want to see the secret room, you have to kill this creature in all scenarios, clear the computer from its larvae, and then register your fingerprint. The origin of this creature is not that clear, but since it resides in Umbrella Labs, we can say that it's a direct result of testing on new creatures. Finally, it's time for the main baddie of the game. William Berkin, the scientist who have created the G-Virus, infects himself with this virus when he got attacked by Umbrella operatives. In the end, he starts to mutate, and it has multiple phases of mutation. Throughout the game, he will try to search for Sherry to infect a host with compatible genes. The first time we face him, he still has the head of a human, and only a giant eyeball have grown inside one of his arms. He's strong but not that fast, and he still has a lot of human traits based on its physical form. The strength of this creature is almost the same as a G-monster, so don't use much strong weapons on him. On the side note, remember that you will face the first phase of its mutation only in B scenarios for both Claire and Leon. Next time you face William Berkin, he has mutated as a result of your first fight. William Berkin's face is not only a part of the chest for this creature, and it is much faster and stronger, but still the same weapons can deal with it. The third form almost has no human traits. It looks like a hybrid of an eagle and a spider, so get ready for a frantic fight because he is much faster and he can hit you with the claws that he has on his back. To kill this four-handed monster, you have to use much stronger weapons than shotgun, but killing him with shotgun is also possible, even though it's a little bit harder. The fourth stage of William Berkin's mutation belongs to only A scenarios for both Claire and Leon. You will face this creature who is not anything close to human body anymore. This four-legged creature will attack you like a dog type of thing, and honestly it's faster and stronger than anything you have seen before during the whole game. Grenade launcher and Magnum are the best weapons that you can use against this creature, and try to move around while you are fighting him because you are in a small room and he can hit you easily and stun you with multiple attacks chained together. If you play A scenario, then you will say okay, William Burkin is dead, but when you play the B scenario, you will face him one last time inside the train that you are trying to use to run away from town. This time he has mutated beyond control. It's more like a gooey thing that has a lot of teeth inside its mouth. It's not hard to kill him. You have to stay away and shoot him. When you are playing as Leon, if you have upgraded your Magnum, it's the best way to deal with this creature. Just shoot him multiple times, and with the kickback of the gun, you will be safe until he is down. If you play as Claire, try to use grenade launcher once more. And don't forget that you have the rocket launcher if you did not waste all the ammo on Mr. X. Finally, you are not able to this creature once and for all, and this creature will meet its demise with the explosion of the whole goddamn train. With that said, that's it for the video, guys. Thank you for watching it. Like it and share it with your friends, and please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to click on the bell icon down below to get notified about our latest videos. With that said, this is Daniel from Retro Haven, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Brad's note: if you play Resident Evil 2 on Nintendo 64, you will find this file. This file is amazing in many ways because it showed that the Brad knew about Nemesis in Resident Evil 2 scenario. So let's see what the file has to offer. No, it's that monster in the black suit again. Why does that thing keep chasing me? What did I do? This must be someone's sick idea of a joke. If I knew things were going to end up like this, I would have left the STARS team a long time ago. But whining won't help me now. I know I'm finished. Oh, In my hometown, Delucia, I bet the flowers are in bloom. If I could see them once more before I die. So, this is a grim one because it shows that the brat accepted his fate, the fate that we will see in Resident Evil 3. But it's some kind of fascinating nonetheless. Chief's Diary. You can find this file only as Claire. You will face Chief Irons, and at the beginning he seems like a nice person. But once you return to his office after meeting Sherry, you will see his dark side using this diary. So let's see what this diary has to offer. September 23rd. It's all over. Those imbeciles from Umbrella have finally done it, despite all their promises. They ruined my town. Soon the streets will be infested with zombies. I'm beginning to think that I may even be infected myself. I'll kill everyone in town if it turns out to be true. September 24th. I was successful in spreading confusion among the police as planned. I've made sure that no one from outside will come to help. With the delay in police actions, no one will have a chance to escape my city alive. I've seen it personally, that all escape routes from inside the precinct have been cut off as well. There are several survivors still attempting to escape through the lower levels, but I'll make sure no one gets out. September 26th. I've had a change of heart about the remaining survivors inside the precinct. I've decided to hunt them down myself. I shot Ed in the back through the heart less than an hour ago. I watched him writhe in pain upon the floor in a pool of his own blood. The expression on his face was positively exquisite. He died with his eyes open, staring up at me. It was beautiful. I wonder if the mayor's daughter is still alive. I let her escape so I could enjoy hunting her down later. I'm going to enjoy my new trophy, yes, frozen forever in the pose I chose to give her. So this file clearly tells us that if Brian Irons did not put the effort to destroy every chance that people has, many survivors could have escaped the town and many people from the outside could come to help the poor civilians of Raccoon City. But in the end, he met his demise in a more satisfying way. Yes, splitting in half by William Berkin was satisfying if you ask me. Mother Virus Report. Yes, another Nintendo 64 exclusive file. This file can be found in the lab, and it has a lot to offer in terms of story. So let's see what's written inside this file. The Mother Virus was first discovered by Oswald E. Spencer, and it was him who founded the Umbrella Inc. As time passes, Spencer's research was succeeded by Dr. James Marcus. However, Dr. Marcus abuses his power and had to be fired. Following Dr. Marcus came Dr. William Berkin. Dr. Berkin experiments delivered many outstanding results, including T-Virus. It is presumed that he will be finished work on more powerful G-Virus in the near future. Currently, research on the Mother Virus takes place at our laboratories all over the world. In the near future, we hope to discover many new viruses. So this one is a little bit basic, but it shows that Umbrella had planned to create multiple versions of the virus. And we were lucky that the Raccoon City incident made it happen only inside one town, because if it did not go public, we might have a lot more viruses that could pop up at any time and destroy the entire world. Operation Instructions. You can find this file only in B scenarios. So, what this file is all about? It's the instruction given to one Mr. Grim Reaper himself. Yes, this is the instruction of the mission that was given to Hank and his team. Operation Instructions. Orders for Special Agent Hank are as follows. Penetrate Umbrella Research Facility located outside of Raccoon City. Recover G-Virus sample from Dr. William Berkin. You are authorized to use any means necessary to secure the sample. Upon recovery, sample is to be delivered to Lore Village. Failure on this mission is not an option. French Division, R&D Facility Head Manager, Christine Henry. So, this file has a lot of questions. First of all, who is Christine Henry that gives this kind of order to Hank? But the most important question is the Loire village. Is it the village we saw in Resident Evil 4 or is it the village we saw in Resident Evil 8 village? We don't know for sure. But it's amazing nonetheless to think and speculate that either of them is the village. But I don't think one of them was the village because it says that they have some kind of facility to research on the sample. But none of those villages, they had the facility for Umbrella to research on the viruses. So it must be another village somewhere in France. Resident Evil 4 was almost most certain took place in Spain, and Resident Evil 8 had some kind of, Romanian vibe, so I don't think that the France has something to do with either of them. Kendo's notes. To be honest, Nintendo 64 version of Resident Evil 2 had lack of content in terms of visual, but they created many amazing notes inside the game, and one of these files were Kendo's note. In this file, Kendo talks to himself about what happened to his town and mentions one of my favorites and a fan favorite of Resident Evil 1. So let's see what this file has to offer. How could this happen, Barry? The town's been overrun by zombies and has literally become a nightmare on Earth. As you know, my concerns for this town is as great as yours. I have waited for your arrival on the assumption you were still in the area, but the threat of my shop being overwhelmed by zombies has become too great. I've already distributed the majority of weapons and ammo to the town's survivors, including the Raging Bull you have special ordered. I hope you understand, given the circumstances. At any rate, I have no intention of pointlessly sacrificing my life, and will be treating to Stonewall. If you get this message, meet me there. We'll go fishing. Robert, Kendo. So, well done, Robert. If you had no intention of sacrificing your life, then why did you stand close to that damn window? I wanted to play as you. You dumb moron. But nonetheless, thanks for the shotgun at the beginning of the game. Job ad by Umbrella. The final file that we want to take a look at is something quite amazing. This is a job ad given by Umbrella, and if you know Umbrella, you will know what to expect after reading this file. So let's see what kind of ability we should have in order to get an employee job in Umbrella. New position available. Umbrella Inc. Raccoon branch. Full-time, including benefits. Who are we? As a #1 pharmaceutical corporation in the world, we are constantly reaching for new ways to expand and grow. What we're looking for? We're looking for healthy, dedicated, and single individuals of any race, religion, or sex. Positions available: sale, service, production, etc. Requirements: no experiment needed, but you must have a clean bill of health. Overseas positions are also available. Please note this on your application. So yeah, Umbrella, you are looking for healthy people to do the sale for you. Yeah, I know. I have seen many of your salespeople trying to eat my brains in Resident Evil. Yeah, many of the people you could see in Resident Evil Code Veronica, in Resident Evil 2, in Resident Evil 3, they were the poor people got hired by Umbrella. These job ads clearly told me that they are looking for samples to experiment the viruses on. And who knows? Maybe Mr. X is one of these guys who have applied for this job. Maybe even Nemesis is one of them. Who knows? 1. Capcom References. There are tons of Capcom references in Resident Evil 2, and you can find many of them easily, and some of them are more obscure. The first one that you will see is the first scene in the A scenario. So basically, when you put any disc inside the game, the first thing that you will see is a screen with a Capcom reference. If you look at the shop banners in the first screen when everything is on fire and the horde of zombies are on your ass, then you will see a shop named Arukas. Well, you might ask, what is Arukas? Just read it backward and you will see Sakura. This is the name of a character in Street Fighter series which is owned by Capcom as well. The second one is as well inside the beginning of the A scenario. When you reach the staircases, when you are trying to run away from the streets and go to police station, you will see a lot of banners. It's very hard to read them, but if you can magnify and read, one of them has the words Matsunami on them. Matsunami might not ring any bell for normal people, but it's an homage to the person who have created the background arts for this game. His full name is Yasuyuki Matsunami, and I gotta say that he did an amazing job, so he deserved this mention inside the game. There were other Capcom references as well, but I could find these two alone. So if you know about any of them, please let us know in the comment section down below. Mr. Bean in Raccoon City. At the beginning of the A scenario, just 2 screens before you reach the police station, you will see one of the most amazing things that I could find in this game. Yes, the lovely Mr. Bean was unlucky and had a trip to Raccoon City. He left his car beside a coffee shop in the road. And based on the things that we see in this screen, we may confirm that he ran away from the city. His car is identical to what you see in the series, so this is a bit of irony. A great homage to a very nice comedy things inside one of the most scary things that the world has ever seen. There are some amazing references toward Resident Evil 3 in this game, but back then we didn't know what is Resident Evil 3. But in time you could find these treasures and find out what happened to Jill and her friends. The first one is Brad Vickers. This one is less obscure compared to the other ones. If you don't pick anything on your way to the police station, obviously playing on normal difficulty, you will find a zombified version of Brad Vickers in the downstairs. This zombie Brad Vickers take around 18 bullets to get down. And when you kill him, you will get one special key that will give you some new costumes and even a new handgun for Claire. Back then when I played this section, I was wondering what the hell happened to Brad, how did he die? And when Resident Evil 3 came, I found out that I was treated to a great Easter egg before I even knew it. Resident Evil 3 gates. The other reference of Resident Evil 3 you can find in Resident Evil 2 is the gate that Jill enters Raccoon City police station. Yes, this gate is available in Resident Evil 2, but I could not find a reliable way to access it. If you go in front of the RPD main door and insist on going in the opposite direction, you might be treated to a new camera angle that shows the screen that you will enter Raccoon City Police Department as Jill. You will see a lot of zombies there. You can take them down, but they cannot cross the gate. But it's amazing nonetheless. Reception room window bug. Yes, there is a logical bug in the game. If you go to the reception room from the main hall, you will see that there are a couple of windows toward the next room. But when you go to the next room, you will face a ramp before entering the door. So, how is it possible? If the door to the other side is around 1 meter higher, then how can the windows be at the same height? This is a logical error that the game designers and the art designers forget to address. But it's there nonetheless. Back to the Future. Someone in the Capcom art team loved Back to the Future because they put a huge reference about this movie inside the game. Honestly, I could never find this reference on my own back then because it's very obscure. When you go to the police station and you reach the STARS office, you will see a picture on a notice board behind the Rebecca's desk. We could not see what the picture is about back then inside the CRT monitors, but with modern technology we have amplified the image, and as you can see, it's a picture of the Doc and Marty. Pervert Wesker. I really wanted to give a shout out to the person who have found this Easter egg, because I could never even dream about finding it. If you go to the police station and reach the RPD STARS team office, you will see a huge desk at the front. That desk belongs to the Captain Wesker. If you check that desk 50 times, you will find a film roll. If you process this film roll downstairs, you will find more or less some kind of creepy image of Rebecca Chambers in basketball jersey. I don't know why Wesker kept this one, but he is a pervert nonetheless. You cannot trust someone who wears sunglasses in the night and inside any building he is, can you? Resident Evil 1 Souvenirs. It seemed like some of the STARS members who have survived the Resident Evil 1 incident brought back some of the souvenirs to the STARS office. You can see that golden emblem you could use to open the door, laying inside a box beside one of the desks. Furthermore, you can see the Made in Heaven jacket that belongs to Chris. If you don't remember this jacket inside the game, don't worry, it was available in one of the ports alone, and the original version on PS1 did not have this jersey. George A. Romero. Yes, the godfather of the zombie genre has some hands in Resident Evil 2. As a matter of fact, they gave him the full authority to create one amazing TV commercial for Resident Evil 2. That TV commercial is cheesy as hell. Leon looks like he has done with poverty a couple of days ago. But it's amazing to see these characters, and the vibe and the atmosphere of the RPD is amazing. Another thing that surprised me is that in this trailer, Claire uses a shotgun, something that never happens inside the real game. Another fun fact is that they gave him a chance to create a Resident Evil movie, and he has created one draft for the scenario. The scenario was about a Native American called Chris who's trying to find his girlfriend Jill and get involved with Umbrella. This script was rejected by the officials at Capcom, and instead they went for Paul W. Anderson to shed all over the legacy of Resident Evil with creating movies that are horrible. There are two major things related to Jill Valentine in Resident Evil 2. When you check her desk, you will find some curious thing. It's a picture of a man, and when you read the text, it says it might be her boyfriend. Who is Jill's boyfriend? We did not know that she has a boyfriend. Personally, I thought that she's in a relationship with Chris, but it never was confirmed inside the games. On the other hand, you can find one file called Jill's Diary, and in this file you will see the exact thing that the Jill narrates at the beginning of Resident Evil 3. So these two references worth something in my book. There are two major references to Shining. This movie made by Stanley Kubrick was one of the most amazing scary movies that the world has ever seen. The first reference to this movie is the typewriters. Obviously the typewriter was a major part of that movie, and you can save your progress using typewriters in Resident Evil series. But the next one belongs to Resident Evil 2 and 2 alone. In the corridor leading to the interrogation room, you can see something written on the wall. If you try to read it, you will find the word Red Rum. So what is Red Rum? If you have seen The Shining, you will see that it is the murder spelled backward. So this is a direct reference to that movie, and no one can deny it. Welcome, Leon. So as you might know, I'm not a native English speaking guy. When I was a kid, I did not know how to speak English properly, and the media such as video games helped me a lot in learning this amazing language. But the funny thing was that some of the games destroyed what I've learned. For example, in Resident Evil 2, when you reach the West Office, you will see signs of celebration that was prepared for Leon's arrival. There is one banner that's written "Welcome Leon" with 2 L's for well. And stupid me thought this is the right way to write welcome. And for a long time I was wrong, I was dead wrong. And all the blame goes to Capcom. This one was so funny that in Resident Evil 2 Remake, they have made some subtle reference to that. And I will take care of that when we reach to the remake. So if you have watched our previous videos on Resident Evil 2 enemies, you would know that the hunters were absent in the Resident Evil 2 enemies roster. But this is not always true, because if you use the zapping system, you will find the corpse of one of them inside the secret lab room. We don't know how they did end up there, we don't know who killed them, but it's amazing to see one of the enemies was animated for the series and was not used within the game. Suffering with no relief. Yes, you might have a good chuckle on this one if you know what I mean. In the whole Raccoon City police station, you cannot find even one single toilet. So I gotta say that Leon was lucky that he did not start his work, and the first day of his work was the last day of Raccoon City police station, because it seems that he had to use a bucket or go outside anytime the nature calls. Breakable cameras. This one is one of the most fascinating things that I found inside the game. In some specific areas, you can shoot the camera using shotgun. I found 3 instances of such situation. One of them close to parking lot, another one before boarding the train in the middle of the game, and the third one was inside the Umbrella Lab near the boiler. So please let me know if you know about any other location in the game that you can shoot the camera. Soda Crisis. There are multiple vending machines available inside the RPD station, and in the early demos you could clearly see that they belong to Pepsi, Coca-Cola and other major brands. But this finally led to some problems for the Capcom, and they had to change the look of the soda vending machines. So the soda vending machines you will see inside the game will never be the same after knowing this one. So how many of these did you know about? If you know about anything that we have missed, please leave a comment and let us know about the mistake that we have made in this video. And like our channel and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Share our video with your friends so we can have more awesome audiences such as yourself. And click on the bell icon down here so you get notified about every single video that we release. With that said, this is Daniel from Retro Haven and I will see you guys in the next video series.